I've been sitting on this story for a while now, wondering how to even start explaining the absolute mess my family turned into. I guess the best place to begin is where everything started going downhill, right after I graduated from college. For context, I'm 27 years old, a software developer, and up until recently I was living at home with my parents. By choice, at first. See, I had this plan. Rent in my city is ridiculous. So I thought, hey, why not stay with my parents for a bit? Save up and get a head start on life. Seems smart, right? Then there's my younger brother, Marcus, 22, who at the time was just starting college. My older sister Sarah, 25, had already moved out and was working on her PhD in another city. She's the only sane one in the family, and as you'll soon find out, she saw the red flags before I did. Now my parents, well, they're not bad people. Middle class, hardworking, the whole family first type. Dad's in sales, mom's a high school teacher. They always talked about how important education was, how families should support each other, and how they wanted to set us up for success. You know, normal parent stuff. So, when they asked me to contribute a little to the household, $800 in rent, utilities included, I figured it was fair, way cheaper than getting my own place. And honestly, I didn't mind helping out. Sarah, on the other hand, thought it was weird that they were charging their own kid rent when they knew I was trying to save up, but I brushed it off. Maybe I should have listened to her, because that was just the start. A few months in, we had what my parents called a family meeting. You know, one of those conversations that seems normal at first, but later you realize it was the moment everything changed. Yeah, that kind. It started off simple. Mom and Dad sat me down and said something like, "Since you're making good money now and living here, maybe you could help out with Marcus's education." And listen, the way they said it, it sounded so reasonable. They weren't asking me to cover everything, just a little here and there. Family helps family, they reminded me. At the time, it seemed fair. Marcus was my little brother. If I could help, why wouldn't I? Sarah called me that night after I texted her about it. "It's a setup," she warned. "Be careful." I laughed it off. "It's just tuition," I told her. "What's the big deal?" What I didn't realize was that tuition was just the beginning. First, it was $3,500 for his first semester. Then another $500 for books. Then Marcus needed a new laptop. His old one was too slow for his engineering classes. Another $1,200 gone. At first I didn't mind. I was making decent money. I was still living at home and it felt good to help out. But little by little things started to shift. I'd be working from home because you know, pandemic life, and Marcus would have his friends over, being loud as hell. If I complained, my parents would shrug and say, "He needs to unwind from studying." But if I had friends over, "We need quiet in the house." Then there were the comments. If I bought myself something small, like a $60 video game, Mom would say, "It must be nice to have money to waste." But Marcus, he was ordering Uber Eats 3 times a day, buying new clothes every other week, with my money, and no one said a word. Sarah would visit sometimes and just shake her head. "You see what's happening, right?" she'd ask, and for a while, I didn't. I kept thinking, they're just looking out for Marcus. It's not that much money in the grand scheme of things. Then came the kicker. One day, I was driving home from work in the rain, and I saw Marcus walking to campus, completely soaked, and stupid me. I felt bad for him. So, in a moment of big brother generosity, I bought him a car, a 2019 Honda Civic. Low miles, clean history, good on gas, spent $19,000 on it. I handed him the keys, expecting at least to thank you. You know what this was? Oh, I was kind of hoping for something more like Jake's BMW. This is kind of basic. Basic. The free car I just bought him was basic. Sarah literally faced palm when I told her later. But you know what? The car wasn't even the worst part. Because once my parents saw me drop that kind of money on Marcus, they took it as a sign that I must be loaded. Next thing I knew, Mom's washing machine broke down. And instead of getting it repaired, she started talking about this fancy $1,200 Samsung model on sale. "It would really help me out, sweetheart." And because I was still trying to be a good son, I bought it for her. Think she was grateful. Now, 2 weeks later, she was complaining that her friend Helen had the model with steam functions. And that would have been so much better for Dad's dress shirts. Then it was Dad's turn. He started talking about this Weber grill he'd always wanted. $1,200 later, he used it twice. Meanwhile, I was still driving my 2015 Toyota Corolla, wearing clothes from Target, And somehow I was the stingy one. The final straw. One night Marcus barged into my room, didn't knock, just walked in, and asked for money for books. Again, and when I hesitated for even half a second, he actually rolled his eyes and said, "Why do I always have to ask? Can't you just set up automatic transfers or something? It's annoying having to ask every time." I swear. It was like being mugged by someone who was annoyed they had to pull out a gun. That was the moment everything clicked. I wasn't a helpful older brother anymore. I wasn't supporting my family. I was the family ATM. And for the first time in my life, I decided I was done. I just didn't realize how much hell was about to make loose when I said the one word my family had never heard from me before. No, I don't think I've ever seen my dad so stunned. For a few seconds after I said no, there was absolute silence on the phone. Then, as if I had just committed some unspeakable crime, my dad let out this sharp breath and said, "What do you mean no?" I repeated myself. "No, I'm not paying for Marcus's tires. It's his car. His problem. You bought him the car." Dad shot back, his voice hardening. "You should make sure he can drive it safely." I clenched my jaw. "That's not how that works." Dad was quiet for a beat. Then he lowered his voice like he was about to say something profound. "Son, family helps family." There it was. The guilt trip. The same line they had used every time they wanted something from me. But something in me had changed. I exhaled slowly. "You're right." I said, "Family helps family. But I'm the only one helping. And I'm done." I hung up before he could respond. I wish I could say I felt proud in that moment that I finally stood my ground and freed myself from years of financial leeching. But the truth, I felt sick. My stomach was in knots. And my hands were shaking. I had never told them no before. And I knew they weren't going to make it well. The family meeting. The next evening, I came home from work and immediately knew something was up. The house was too quiet. No TV. No Marcus in the kitchen raiding the fridge. No Dad and his usual spot at the dining table. Just silence. Then I saw them. My parents and Marcus were sitting in the living room waiting. My mom perched on the couch with her arms folded, had this sad wounded expression. Her signature look whenever she wanted to guilt trip me. Dad sat next to her, his jaw clenched, fingers tapping against his knee. And Marcus, he looked downright hissed. My gut told me to turn around and walk right back out the door. "Sit down." Dad said. I stayed where I was. "I'm good." Mom let out a dramatic sigh. "Honey, we just want to talk." Right, talking. In this house always meant I was about to be ambushed. "We're worried about you," she continued. "You've been acting differently." I let out a dry laugh because I said no for once. Dad's fingers stopped tapping because you're not acting like family anymore. There it was again. Family helps family. Family doesn't turn their back. Family sacrifices for each other. I took a deep breath. I have sacrificed. I've paid for Marcus's education, his car, his books, his food. I've been paying rent while living here, even though you keep telling people I don't. And somehow, no matter how much I give, it's never enough. Mom's face twisted into a wounded expression. "Sweetheart, we never forced you to help." I actually laughed. "You didn't have to. You just expected it." Marcus scoffed. "Oh, poor you. Acting like you're some kind of victim. You make good money and you're whining about helping your family." I turned to him. "You expect me to pay for you while you sit around doing nothing. You've never even said thank you." Marcus rolled his eyes because that's what brothers do. "No," I said, my voice calm but firm. "That's what parents do." For the first time in my life, I saw a flicker of uncertainty in my dad's expression. "Look," I continued. "I love this family, I do. But I'm done being treated like a walking ATM. I'm not paying for Marcus's tires. I'm not paying for his laptop. And I sure as hell I'm not covering another expense just because you assume I will." Silence. Then my mom did what she always did when things didn't go her way. She teared up. "I don't understand," she whispered. "After everything we've done for you." I cut her off. "Mom, what have you done for me?" She blinked. "We raised you." I shook my head. "No, you raised Marcus. I raised myself." Dad stood up, his face red. "That's enough." "No," I said. "It's not. Because for 3 years, I let this happen. I let you trick me into funding this household. I convinced myself I was being a good son, a good brother. But all I did was let myself be used." Marcus groaned. "God, you're so dramatic." I turned to him. "Enjoy the Civic. Because after this month, you're paying for your own damn expenses." Dad took a step forward, his voice low and controlled. "If you walk out of this house, don't expect to come back." I smiled. Good thing I already signed a lease. The fallout. I had expected yelling, maybe even Dad throwing something. But the real reaction was much worse. Mom just stared at me, her face filled with pure betrayal, like I had just announced I was disowning them. Sweetheart, she tried one last time. This isn't you. I sighed. No, it's just the first time I've actually put myself first. And with that, I turned and walked upstairs. The next 2 weeks. Absolute psychological warfare. Mom switched between sobbing loudly in the kitchen whenever I walked past and giving me the cold shoulder. Dad acted like I was a stranger. Marcus? He went full petty mode, slamming doors, blasting music at 3 a.m., and muttering under his breath about how some people don't care about family. And the best part, I started getting random calls from extended family members. And Karen, how could you do this to your mother? Uncle Dave, your parents gave you everything. And this is how you repay them. Even Grandma, who I loved, called and gently asked if I was going through something, because I was making rash decisions. Mom had sent out the flying monkeys. Sarah, of course, saw right through it. Blocked them all, she told me. They don't know the real story. And she was right. The night before I left, I overheard my parents talking. Dad, he'll come crawling back once he realizes how expensive life is. Mom, I just don't understand why he's being so selfish. Marcus, whatever, I give it 3 months. I stood there for a moment, then quietly walked away. They had no idea what was coming. And I was so done. I should have known something was coming. The silent treatment had lasted too long. The guilt trips, the passive-aggressive sighs, the dramatic Facebook posts. My mom had pulled every trick in the book. And yet, nothing could have prepared me for what happened next. It was my last week at home. I had already moved most of my important stuff to a storage unit, thanks to Sarah's advice. I had a lease, a new job waiting for me, and a one-way ticket out of this nightmare. Then, one afternoon, I got a text from my bank. Your account balance is lower than usual. Recent withdrawal, $5,000. My stomach dropped. I immediately opened my banking app, my fingers shaking. There it was, $5,000 withdrawn from my savings. I stared at the screen, my mind racing. There was only one explanation. I stormed downstairs, my heart pounding in my chest. My parents were in the living room, acting like nothing was wrong. Marcus was on the couch, scrolling through his phone like a king waiting for his next demand to be fulfilled. I held up my phone. Who took $5,000 from my account? Mom didn't even look up from her magazine. Oh, that. We needed it. My vision blurred with rage. You needed it? Dad set his coffee down. Watch your tone. I took a deep breath, my hands shaking. That was my savings. My money. How did you even access it? Mom sighed, as if I was being unreasonable. We didn't think you'd mind. You'd been helping us for years. I could barely hear her over the blood rushing in my ears. How did you get into my account? Marcus snickered. It wasn't hard. You used the same PIN for everything. It hit me like a punch to the gut. They had stolen from me. After everything I had won. After paying for Marcus's tuition, his car, their appliances, their bills, they still had the audacity to go behind my back and steal my savings. I turned to Mom. Where's the money? Mom pursed her lips like I was being dramatic. Well, we had to put a down payment on a new car. I blinked. A new car? She nodded, as if this was a completely normal conversation. Marcus needed something better. The Civic wasn't cutting it for him anymore. My body went numb. Marcus had a car. A car I bought him. A car that was perfectly fine. And they used my money without asking. To buy him another one. I looked at Marcus, expecting at least some guilt. Nothing. He shrugged. Relax. It's not like you're poor. You'll make it back in no time. I laughed. A hollow, humorless laugh. And then I snapped. Get up. I said. My voice dangerously calm. Marcus frowned. What? I said, get up. He rolled his eyes but stood. Why? Because we're going outside. Confused, he followed me to the driveway. My parents trailed behind, probably expecting me to throw a tantrum and then get over it like I always did. When I saw it, I almost couldn't breathe. Sitting in the driveway was a brand new BMW. My money, my hard-earned $5,000, had gone into this. Marcus smirked. Looks nice, huh? I turned to face them, and for the first time in my life, I felt something click inside me. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. I pulled my phone out and called my bank. Yes, I need to report an unauthorized withdrawal of $5,000. Yes, I'd like to press charges. Mom gasped. You wouldn't. I met her eyes. Watch me. Marcus turned pale. Wait, hold on. I ignored him. Yes, I know who took the money. It was my mother. Mom clutched her chest like she'd been shot. How could you do this to your own mother? I gave her the same look she had given me all my life. How could you steal from your own son? Dad stepped forward. You're blowing this out of proportion. No, I said. You did that the moment you cited my future was a piggy bank for Marcus's lifestyle. Then I turned to Marcus. Since you like expensive things so much, enjoy making car payments. Because I promise you, I'll get my money back. Every cent of it. His mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. I turned back to my parents. And by the way, that rent payment you're expecting next week, you can forget it. I'll be out in 3 days. Mom's face crumpled. Where will you go? I smirked. Oh, don't worry about me. I have savings. Dad exhaled sharply. You're being ridiculous. I stepped closer to him, my voice low. No, you are ridiculous. You had a son willing to help and you took from him until there was nothing left. And now I don't owe you anything. I turned and walked inside, ignoring my mom's frantic calls, ignoring Marcus swearing, ignoring the way my dad stood there, fists clenched, realizing for the first time that he had no control over me anymore. I locked my bedroom door, sat on my bed, and for the first time in years, I felt free. And the best part, I wasn't done yet, because when I moved out, I wasn't just leaving, I was making sure they never had access to my life, or my money. Again, I thought the shouting would stop once I went to my room, but I was wrong. Not even 5 minutes later, there was a furious pounding on my door. Open this door right now. On the ignored him, Mom's voice followed, her usual tearful plea. Sweetheart, please, let's just talk about this. Talk. Now they wanted to talk. I took a deep breath, my hands still shaking from the adrenaline. I have nothing else to say. I called out. Nothing else to say. Marcus snapped. You just reported Mom to the bank like she's some kind of criminal. She stole from me. I shot back. She's your mother. I laughed bitterly. And I'm her son, not a personal ATM. Silence. Then, Dad's voice, cold, sharp, controlled. If you go through with this, if you really think pressing charges against your own family is the right thing to do, then don't expect to come back. Ah, there it was. The final ultimatum. I had 2 choices. I could cave. Let them manipulate me one more time. Let them smooth over what they did with guilt and empty apologies. Or I could walk away for good. I gritted my teeth. I wasn't planning on coming back anyway. Silence. Then, the footsteps faded. The pounding stopped. And I was left alone. The fallout. The next morning, I woke up to 47 missed calls and countless texts. Mom, honey, please don't do this. Let's talk. We love you, Dad. You're making a mistake. Be a man and fix this. Marcus, dude, you're seriously insane. You're actually ruining our family over a stupid car. Hope your new life is worth it. Then came the extended family. And Karen, your mother is in tears. How could you be so cruel? Uncle Dave, your dad is heartbroken. You're throwing away your family over money. Even Grandma texted. Grandma, I don't understand what's going on. But I love you. I hope you can fix this. The guilt hit just for a second. But then remembered $5,000. Stolen from my account. 3 years of financial abuse. Being called stingy while I funded their entire lives. I exhaled, hit block on every single one of them except for Grandma. And threw my phone on the bed. I was done. Sarah showed up that afternoon, ready to help me pack. She took one look at my face inside. They went full nuclear mode, didn't they? I nodded. They said if I pressed charges, I'm not welcome back. She snorted. Like you were ever welcome. You were just useful. I swallowed hard. Did they call you? Oh yeah, she said, rolling her eyes. Mom tried to play the woe is me card. Dad went on a rant about how you're selfish. And Marcus, well, Marcus is Marcus. I shook my head. Still processing. Do you think I did the right thing? Sarah grabbed my shoulder, forcing me to meet her gaze. I think, for the first time in your entire life, you did something for yourself. And I'm proud of you. I didn't realize how much I needed to hear that until my throat tightened. Thanks, Sarah. She smirked. Now hurry up and pack. I want to see Dad's face when we take your TV. When moving day arrived, I had already mentally prepared for it, but she didn't say a word. Dad stood in the doorway, his arms crossed, jaw clenched, refusing to even look at me. And Marcus, he was sitting on the couch, scrolling on his phone. Like none of this was happening. They thought I'd change my mind. They thought I'd crack. Instead, I grabbed my last bag, turned to them and said the one thing I never thought I'd say. Goodbye. Mom's breath hitched. Dad's grip on the doorway tightened. Marcus barely reacted. No one stopped me. No one begged me to stay. I walked out that door and didn't look back. The first night in my new apartment was weird. For the first time in years, I didn't have to listen to Marcus's gaming rage at 2 a.m. No one was asking me for money. No one was guilt-tripping me about helping the family. It was just quiet. At first, it felt too quiet. Then, it felt like freedom. A few days later, the bank called. After reviewing my case, they flagged the withdrawal as fraud and reversed the transaction. Mom sent one last text. "Mom, I can't believe you did this. You've turned your back on your family. Hope your new life was worth betraying us." I stared and didn't betray you. I just stopped letting you take advantage of me. Then I hit block. Sarah visited me 2 months later. She walked into my apartment, looked around and smiled. "You look happy." I nodded. "I think I finally am." She plopped onto my couch. "So what's next?" I grinned. "Living my life." For me, for the first time in years, I was free. And damn, it felt good. Story 2. It's funny how life throws you curveballs when you least expect it. 1 minute you're planning your future, picturing white picket fences and tiny socks hanging on the clothesline. And the next, your whole world implodes. That's kind of what happened to me with Sarah. We were together for 7 years. Married for 2. We weren't kids when we met. I was 28. She was 26. And we both knew what we wanted. We waited to have kids. Wanted to get our finances in order. You know, the responsible adult thing for a while. Things were good, or so I thought. We had our routines, our inside jokes, our plans. After the 2-year mark, we decided it was time to try for a baby. It felt like the natural next step. Looking back, I can't believe how oblivious I was. The signs were there, but I was so caught up in the US. Of it all that I missed them. Sarah started staying out late, always with some excuse about work or friends. She was glued to her phone, but I just figured she was catching up with people. I trusted her. You know, you don't marry someone unless you trust them. But the gut feeling was there. A nagging sense of unease that something wasn't right. She became distant. And this tension grew between us. It was like we were living in 2 different worlds, even when we were in the same room. I remember one night she came home really late smelling of alcohol and something else I couldn't quite place. She mumbled something about work drinks, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. That was the first real red flag, but I still let it slide. I didn't want to be that guy. The jealous husband accusing his wife of things. Things kept getting worse. More late nights. More excuses. More distance. I tried to talk to her, but she just brushed me off or get defensive. I hated the suspicion that was growing inside me. The idea that the woman I loved, the woman I was trying to build a life with, could be doing this to me. Then one night, it all came crashing down. I was at home. Sarah was supposedly working late again. And I just knew. It was this gut feeling I couldn't shake. I did something I'm not proud of. Something I swore I'd never do. I checked her phone. Before you judge me, I know it was a shitty thing to do. But I was desperate. I needed to know what was going on. And there it was, right in front of me. In black and white. All the proof I needed. She'd been texting some guy. Mark, 4 weeks. They'd been meeting up. And it was definitely more than just friendly. My stomach dropped. I felt sick. Betrayed. Like the ground had been ripped out from under me. I sat there for hours, just staring at her phone, reading the messages over and over again, as if somehow they would change if I read them enough times. But they didn't. Sarah was cheating on me. I waited up for her that night. A knot of anger and hurt tightening in my chest with every passing hour. When she finally walked in, I could see the guilt in her eyes. I didn't waste any time. I showed her the phone, the messages, the evidence of her betrayal. She froze. And for a split second, I thought she might try to deny it, but she didn't. Instead, the tears came, a torrent of sobs and apologies. "I'm so sorry," she choked out. "I didn't mean for it to happen. Didn't mean for it to happen. How do you accidentally cheat on your husband? How do you just slip up and betray someone like that?" I wasn't buying it. I told her right then and there that I wanted a divorce. She lost it, begging, pleading, promising therapy, anything to make me change, but I was done. Cheating is a deal breaker for me, always has been. Once that trust is broken, it's like a shattered vase. You can glue it back together, but it'll never be the same. What pissed me off the most was how she tried to deflect the blame, like it wasn't really her fault, like I should just accept it as a mistake and move on. But I wasn't going to let her get away with that. I wasn't going to let her make me feel like I was the one who did something wrong. The next few days were a blur. I filed for divorce. And thankfully, we had a prenup. It made things cleaner. Quicker. Sarah kept trying to contact me. Calling, showing up at my apartment. Even trying to get my friends to intervene. It was pathetic. But I wasn't budging. I'd made up my mind. The prenup saved me a lot of financial hassle. But it didn't make the emotional pain any less real. I kept everything. The apartment. My savings. Because she was the one who screwed up. It was a small consolation. But at least I didn't lose everything on top of the heartbreak. That's how it all started. The end of my marriage and the beginning of a whole lot of mess. I didn't realize then just how much damage it would do to me. How long the shadow of her betrayal would linger. But that's a story for another time. After the divorce I went full ghost mode. Changed my number, moved to a new place. Cut off all contact with Sarah. I didn't want closure. Didn't want explanations. I just wanted her out of my life. The first few months were rough. Not in a crying myself to sleep kind of way. But there was this emptiness. This void where she used to be. It wasn't that I missed her specifically. But I missed the life we had. The future we were supposed to have. It was the death of a dream. The loss of something I thought was real. I started going to therapy. Something I never thought I'd do. But I needed help processing everything. Turns out, a lot of what I was feeling wasn't just about Sarah's cheating. It was about a whole bunch of other stuff I'd never dealt with. Stuff from my childhood. From my family. I'd never been good at expressing my emotions. And suddenly I was drowning in them. Therapy helped me unpack all that. Helped me understand myself better. 3 years passed. I healed. Slowly but surely. I focused on work. Reconnected with friends. Even started dating again. Though nothing serious. Sarah became a distant memory. A ghost from a life I'd left behind. Then, one day, I was at the grocery store. Just minding my own business. When I bumped into them. Sarah's parents. I hadn't seen or heard from them since the divorce. And my first instinct was to avoid them. But it was too late. They'd already seen me. Sarah's mom. Bless her heart. Came rushing over. Tears in her eyes. I knew what was coming before she even opened her mouth. It was a guilt trip. A plea for sympathy. Sarah had been in a car accident. A bad one. She was in the hospital. In serious condition. I stood there. None. I didn't know what to say. What to feel. I wasn't happy about it. But I wasn't exactly heartbroken either. Her mom kept talking. Telling me how much Sarah had been struggling. How this accident had been a wake-up call. And then came the request. Would I visit her in the hospital? It would mean so much to her. She pleaded. Despite everything, you were such an important part of her life. I almost laughed. Did they really think I'd go running back to her after everything she'd done? Sarah isn't my problem anymore. I said, trying to keep my voice even. That didn't go over well. More tears. More pleas for forgiveness. For compassion. Her dad, who had been quiet until then, chimed in. Talking about how everyone makes mistakes. How it would be good for both of us to make peace. That's when I snapped. I was already pissed off that they were trying to convince. I told them, flat out, that Sarah could rot in that hospital bed for all I cared. Harsh maybe, but it's how I felt. I reminded them that she was the one who cheated. Not me. I didn't know her anything. Especially not forgiveness. And I wasn't going to pretend to care just because she had an accident. I even threw in how they always defended her. Always made excuses for her behavior. Like somehow it was my fault she cheated. They tried to argue. But I was done. I walked away, leaving them standing there in the middle of the grocery store with their tears and their guilt trips. Later that night, my dad called. Turns out Sarah's parents had reached out to my family, complaining about how I treated them. My dad was on their side, lecturing me about being the bigger person. My sister agreed. Thankfully, my mom was the only one who understood. She said I didn't owe Sarah anything. And she was right. It turned into a whole family feud. With everyone weighing in on what I should have done. Some thought I was too harsh. Others understood. Honestly, I didn't care. I wasn't going to feel bad for not rushing to Sarah's side. She made her bed. And now she had to lie in it. A few days later, my sister called saying we needed to talk. I knew it was about Sarah. But I agreed. She came over. And we went through the whole thing again. She understood why I was angry. But she thought I should visit Sarah for closure. Closure? I scoffed. I got my closure 3 years ago when we signed the divorce papers. She kept pushing, saying things like, what if it's your last chance to say something to her? Or, what if something worse happens? I was getting frustrated. It was like everyone had forgotten what Sarah did to me. If someone did to you what Sarah did to me, would you be running to their bedside? I asked her. She went quiet. Then said, "It's not the same. You guys were married. You shared a life together. And that was it for me." I was done with the conversation. I told her I didn't want to hear about Sarah anymore. And I wasn't changing my mind. A couple of days later, my dad showed up at my parents'. About showing some decency. He went on and on about how he raised me better than this. How disappointed he wasn't me. I was dumbfounded. Why was everyone acting like I was the bad guy here? I tried to explain my side, but he wasn't having it. He kept talking about how family is important. How I should do the right thing. And then it hit me. It wasn't just about Sarah. It was about my dad's past. Something I never knew about. During his rant, he let it slip that my mom had cheated on him when they were first married. I was floored. This whole time I had no idea. Suddenly, everything made sense. Why my dad was so insistent on me forgiving Sarah. Why he was so pissed that I wouldn't visit her. He was projecting his own experience onto me. He stayed with my mom after she cheated. And he expected me to do the same. That's when I lost it. "I'm not you," I told him. "I'm not going to forgive Sarah just because you forgave mom." He didn't like that. We argued and he stormed out. I was left reeling. My whole perspective on my parents' marriage shattered. I didn't know what to do, who to talk to. Then a few days later, I got a text from an unknown number. It was Sarah. "Can we talk?" she asked. After 3 years of silence, she pops back into my life with a "Can we talk?" I was furious. But curiosity got the better of me, and I texted back, "What do you want?" She said she wanted to apologize. To clear the air. I wasn't buying it. She had 3 years to apologize. And now she chooses to do it after her parents guilt-tripped me. I told her there was nothing to talk about, but she wouldn't let it go. She kept texting, saying she had things to explain, that she was sorry. Part of me was tempted. I wanted to know what she could possibly say to make up for what she did. But I knew it wouldn't change anything. So I ignored her. Then, my sister called. Sarah had reached out to her too, trying to make amends with everyone. Apparently the accident had been a life-changing experience for her. My sister thought I should give Sarah a chance to explain herself. What's the harm in hearing her out? She didn't notice me at first. But when she did, her eyes widened in surprise. "I didn't think you'd come," she whispered. I shrugged. "Yeah, well, here I am." She started to cry. And it wasn't the fake kind of crying she used to do. It was real, raw. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice trembling. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I needed you to know that." I didn't know what to say. "You broke my trust." I finally managed. "You broke us. That's not something you can just apologize for, and expect it to go away." "I know," she whispered. "I know I hurt you. I was selfish and stupid. I don't expect you to forgive me. But I'm sorry for everything. For ruining what we had. For not being the person you deserved." Hearing her say those words, something shifted inside me. The anger, the rage. It was gone. I wasn't angry anymore. Hurt. Yes. But not angry. I looked at her. Really looked at her. And saw how much she had changed. "I don't hate you anymore," I said, surprising myself with the words. "But I'm never going to forget what you did." She nodded. Tears still streaming down her face. "I wouldn't expect you to." We sat in silence for a while. The air thick with unspoken words and emotions. Then I stood up to leave. "Thank you for coming," she said, her voice weak. "It means more to me than you know." I nodded and walked out of the room. As I drove away from the hospital, I felt a sense of closure. Not forgiveness, but closure. I'd been holding on to the anger for so long. And now, finally, I was letting it go. It wasn't about Sarah anymore. It was about me. I was finally free.